Do all of these media heads actually watch the games? What's going on, folks? This is Coach Marcus for Pro Fan Talk. Again, you got these media heads saying stuff that sometimes really doesn't make any sense. The big hoopla today, today is Wednesday, the 25th, October 25th, and apparently on Good Morning Football this morning, Jamie Erdahl, and I like Jamie Erdahl a lot, she said that the way the Eagles play is not sustainable. And I guess she was referring to our upcoming schedule. And yes, we are at the meat of our schedule, and we have a pretty wicked set of games coming up. The one thing I say, and I said this in the preseason, everybody talks about the Philadelphia Eagles like the Philadelphia Eagles just stood still while all of these other teams got better. That seems to be the optics of it. I know everybody doesn't think that. I heard Micah Parsons' comments and some of the stuff I heard Colin Cowherd today. And it seems like, just like last year, some people jump on board, some people don't. It is what it is. At the end of the day, if you don't believe in the Philadelphia Eagles, that's fine, because we'll change your mind at some point in time anyways. As the season goes along, as we see who are the leaders of the divisions, and as we see which teams make it to the playoffs. The one thing that I've always said, all of this stuff, preseason, earlier in the regular season, power rankings, top 10, top 5, all of that kind of stuff doesn't matter. None of it matters, because at the end of the day, we got to get on that field and play the game. There were a lot of people that lost money because they thought the Miami Dolphins were going to run over the Eagles. You got to watch the games. I said the way the Eagles can beat the Dolphins, they got to win on the line of scrimmage. We have to dominate, run the ball, and be physical. That's how they won. Our defensive line beat Miami's offensive line. Tua had his one shot. Tyreek Hill had the one big play. Other than that, we pretty much shut them down. And that's how you win games. Is Miami a bad team now because they lost to the Eagles in Buffalo? Absolutely not. You don't think that McDaniels is going to sit down and watch those tapes and get better from them? That's what good teams do. You got to take your lumps. But at the end of the day, it's not going to matter, because ultimately, if Miami wants to go deep in the playoffs, the way things are set up now, that road goes through Kansas City. If you're in the NFC, that road comes through Philadelphia. You can argue which team is the best. That's up to you. Is it Philly? Is it Dallas? Is it San Fran? You can argue that, and you could probably come up with some valid arguments. However, we won a division last year. We made it to the Super Bowl last year. And what that means is if you want to go through the playoffs, you got to come through Philly, period. And regardless of if you think you have the better team or not, it will be proven on the field. Can't nobody tell me that the Philadelphia Eagles were not the best team in the NFC last year. And then we go to Washington and get beat. We lost 2 weeks ago to the Jets. Nobody saw that coming. If you don't understand what any given Sunday means, you're not paying attention. This is the National Football League. Everybody's good. You saw what happened with the Giants and the Commanders. You saw what happened to Detroit and Baltimore. You saw what happened with San Francisco and Minnesota. Everybody gets a turn. I don't care how good people think you are. I don't care where you sit in the power rankings. It means nothing. The only thing that matters is what you do on Sunday. All of these the lists and the ranks and what the betting says and what Vegas says, all of that's a crock of crap. It doesn't mean anything. The only thing that matters is what you do on that field Sunday afternoon. Point, period, end of paragraph. And you see all of these things happen. I mentioned this the other day. You see all of this yapping, and this is the new era of football. This is just where we are. I'm one of those old guys, the get off my lawn guys. I'm at that point in my life. So we didn't do this back in the day. We didn't do this back in the 90s. We weren't worried about what somebody said in another city. If we didn't read it in the paper, it didn't exist. Now, with social media, every time somebody says something, people's feelings getting hurt. Debo and CJ Gardner-Johnson going at it, talking smack to each other. You don't want to see me and this, that, and you don't even play. And they going back and forth. And you know what? Both their teams lost. Both of them. And everybody's butt hurt and super sensitive because somebody said something on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever you use. Back in the day, everything stayed in the locker room, and the rule of the day
Worry about yourself.
Don't worry about what nobody else is doing. Our goal is whoever we're playing this week. We got to go 1-0 this week. That was the goal. You didn't worry about what was said on social media and all of that kind of stuff. You ain't got time for all of that. And the repercussions of all of that stuff, quotes get out, people said this, and you get all of this outside noise. And the funny part is the players are the ones making all of the outside noise. Before, you read something in the newspaper, maybe a beat writer wrote something about you didn't like, but you had to see those people during the week because they had to come in the locker room. Now you get people saying stuff 100,000 miles away with impunity, but you still get mad and you'll never see them people face to face. But it's out in the universe, so everybody worries about it.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
The only thing we got to worry about is what's going to happen on Sunday. That's it. So back to the Jamie Erdahl quotes. First of all, most of those guys, most of those media heads on television, they do not watch all of the games. They get highlights and they get fed information. Don't forget, those morning shows, doesn't matter which one it is, that is a production. They don't watch all of the games. They probably don't have time to. So you know what somebody does? Somebody gives them a stack of paper with notes and stats and analytics. So all they're going off of is what they read. Maybe they watch 2 or 3 games over the weekend. I don't know. But there's no way they watch all of the game. If you're from Philly, when it's Mike Quick and Merrill Reese in the booth doing play-by-play for the games, and they're reading off stats, and they're reading off players, and it's coming off the tip of the tongue, they got somebody in the background feeding them information, sticking papers in front of their face so they know which commercial to read, which player did what. They get all of those stats placed on them. It's a production. They don't remember all of that stuff. It's too much information. It's the same thing all of these media heads on their shows in the morning, Undisputed and Good Morning Football, Speak, all of that stuff. They get fed information because it's a production. Most of those guys have a rehearsal before they go on. They know what they're going to talk about, what arguments and disagreements they're going to have. It's a production. Now, granted, they still have to know their stuff. For Jamie Erdahl to make the point that she made, I understand where she's coming from, but have you been watching the games? And once again, do you think the Eagles have just been standing still? Have we not gotten better? Did we not get better in the offseason? And then you look at the teams. Here's our upcoming schedule. We go to Washington, Dallas at home, go to KC, then we have Buffalo, then we have San Fran, then we go to Dallas, then we go to Seattle. So we got a rough part of the schedule coming up. However, Washington always gives us problems. They're in the division. Regardless of how bad they look, they always give us a game. Everybody in our division is like that. I don't care. Washington, the Giants, Dallas, you already know every game is going to be a battle. I don't go into Washington thinking that we're just going to dominate Washington. That's the game plan, but they always give us a good game. So I expect that's going to be a rough game in Washington. Yes, I expect the Eagles to win. But again, ain't no layups in the NFL. None. Then we got Dallas at home. Dallas is always a good game. Nothing's going to change. And I'm sure Micah Parsons, he done put out what he said on his podcast. He's getting in that stage too. Every week he's got something to say. I could just imagine way back in the 90s, if I jumped on WIP or the radio or somebody and put it out to the masses that, you know what, the Dallas Cowboys are the best team in the NFC right now. Seth Joyner would have smacked me upside the head. Clyde Simmons would have smacked the hell out of me. You didn't do that back then. But now it's a new era and he wants to get on his podcast and talk and people are listening. That's just the era that we are in. And I think a lot of people just forget, even the players. Sometimes you forget you got to turn down the outside noise because all it is a distraction. Now, I am quite sure that everybody down there in Dallas, I'm sure he's getting some questions about what he said on his podcast. And that's another distraction that he don't want to have to deal with. You look at the situation that Dak Prescott was going through when everybody was asking him about interceptions that happened last year. People are looking for something to say and looking to create a story. And with the onset of social media and different things of that nature, the players are throwing the match in the gasoline. They're doing it themselves. They don't have to wait for an outside source. All the beat writers and all the reporters, all they got to do is sit back and wait for something to happen. How many arrests were there in the NFL this week? It was like 3 arrests or something like that. All they got to do is sit and wait. A story will come to them. You ain't got to search for stories anymore. Ever since Antonio Brown did what he did in Pittsburgh and fired up that Instagram Live or whatever it was that day in the players meeting after the game, it seems like just like school's out. Everybody wants to say something. Everybody wants to be provocative. Everybody wants to They want to put something inflammatory to get noticed and get that click traffic. That's what it's about right now. Everybody wants to make noise, but nobody's paying attention. The teams that are paying attention are the teams that are succeeding. Don't mind our schedule. Yes, we are the rough part of a schedule, but everybody else has got rough schedules too. Everybody else is dealing with issues. Dallas is dealing with issues. Dallas is 4-2. They lost to the Cardinals and the 49ers. Kansas City lost the first game of the season. They're sitting at 6-1 as well. So they're playing better. But guess what? They have their issues. Buffalo's 4-3. Buffalo lost to the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Patriots. Elite teams have issues too. So don't think we're sitting on some island. No team is exempt. And that gives more kudos to the mindset and the leadership of QB1 Jalen Hurts, because he ain't about all that nonsense. We laugh at him every time he says, keep the main thing the main thing. Players understand what that means. I know what that means. That just means stay focused. Cut out all the nonsense, turn down all the noise, and stay focused. And everybody can't do that. Dallas can't do that. And you got somebody in your own organization that's supposed to be a leader of your team, you causing all the noise. So it makes a difference. Intangibles matter. Intangibles, that stuff that they talk about when they don't think a quarterback is any good. They say he has great intangibles. This is where that kind of stuff matters. Jason Kelce, intangibles. Bradbury, intangibles. Jalen Hurts, intangibles. A.J. Brown, intangibles. The first chink in the armor, I don't even call it a chink in the armor, that's just maturity, was what Jalen Carter did in the game last weekend against Miami. He should have got the penalty and he flopped and they made it offsetting penalties. Hopefully that won't happen again. And that's not what our team is about. So hopefully somebody in the film room, one of the vets, took him to the side and said, hey man, let's be better. Because we don't need that nonsense. The next issue that was going on is the refs. The officiating, it was god awful this weekend. And somebody that's a Philadelphia Eagles alumni and watched the game, I understand why Miami Dolphins fans are pissed off. But it happens. It's not the first time. It's not going to be the last time. Everybody wants to put out, is it a script? Is it rigged? If that's the case, it's been rigged for years. Back when I was playing in the 90s, we said the same thing. The voices are louder now, once again, because the media covered. Nothing has changed. Did you see what happened to the Colts at home? Usually if the calls are bad, you're going to think it's going to be a little bit of home cooking. The Colts lost at home on some bad calls. Horrible calls. To the point where Jim Irsay made comments that he's not supposed to make. He might get fined or something like that for the comments he made about the officiating. Because he's no stranger to the Twitterverse. He put it out on Twitter and expressed his feelings on how the games were officiated. I understand the Miami fans when it was 10 penalties to none. I still think it had more to do with the 5 false starts and offsides that you had, more so than a missed holding call. But there were missed holding calls. Make no mistake. The refs missed a lot of calls on both sides. We just benefited from it. Everybody gets a turn. Nobody said anything to us when we lost at Washington last year, when a missed face mask call cost us our tight end, Dallas Goedert, for what, 4 weeks? He got injured on the play. Blatant face mask. And they missed it. That Bradbury play was a glancing blow. So I understand why you're upset. And you know what? You got every right to be. But we can also empathize because we've been there. It is what it is. Everybody gets a turn. You're going to have another game in the future where all of the calls are going to go your way. And whoever you're playing, they're going to be bitching, moaning about the calls too. That's not going to go anywhere. What you hope is that it doesn't cost the team a victory to get into the playoffs or in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl. Everybody heard the noise last year from the Super Bowl, the Bradbury call at the end of the game. It wasn't the wrong call. The problem is the refs weren't calling ticky-tack fouls like that the whole game. They were letting them play. And here's the logic, at least my logic. If you're going to call everything from the start and let it be known that you're calling this game tight from beginning to end. Don't let a loose game go and then you want to call it tight at the end. Don't do that. To me, that's unfair. If it's tight in the beginning, it better be tight at the end. If it's loose in the beginning, it better be loose at the end. Just stay consistent. So I understand complaints about the referees. This is not anything new. We're going to keep our heads down and keep grinding. And that's all you can do. Miami, if you are a good team, you keep your head down and keep grinding. But you know what? Everybody's in the meat of their season right now. And what's everybody dealing with? Now you got Brock Purdy in concussion protocol. CMC is hurt. Debo's going to be out. Miami still has injuries. Washington's got injuries. The Eagles have injuries. Give me a team that doesn't have injuries or that's not dealing with something. Everybody's dealing with something. But week in and week out, I won't speak for anybody else, but the Philadelphia Eagles are showing up and playing. And if it weren't for that blemish against the Jets, we would be undefeated. But woulda, coulda, shoulda don't do nothing but rhyme. The New York Jets got all in our ass, and they got that victory. So it is what it is. We rebounded, had a much better game against Miami, and we keeping it moving. That's the only thing you can do. Keep the main thing the main thing. If you like this content, please subscribe, click that notification bell, and if you don't mind, go to my YouTube channel, Pro Fan Talk, find that top 10 playlist, and play all. And I will see you guys in the next play. Peace.